My very best year in personal real estate sales, I sold $47 million worth of real estate volume and earned a gross commission income of $968,070. If you don't believe me, here is proof from my 2020 individual tax return. And I'm gonna show you exactly what my schedule looked like during that time so you can copy it verbatim if you want to have the same results. Disclaimer, this is not recommended. I was not living a balanced life during that time. I was entirely focused on success and growth. And when I started, I had no money. I was sleeping on the tile floor or doing showings on a bicycle. Like I had nothing. And so my number one goal was to be successful in this. Step one, I would show up at the office every single day at 7 a.m. and I would meet my assistant for our morning briefing from 7:15 to 7:30. Then, during that time, she would have already prepared my call list, and at 7:30, I would log into Mojo Dialer and I would start cold calling expired listings. We would run this from 7:30 a.m. to 12 noon, and she would sit right next to me. And as I was on the phone with customers or leads, and I would do it usually via speakerphone, so she would be taking notes, she'd be updating the file, she wouldn't know what to do with every single lead, so I could spend as much time talking to leads as humanly possible. This system allowed me to make thousands of calls a week, and if you don't believe me, here's proof of my Mojo Dialer screenshot showing I made almost 70,000 cold calls just through this system, not on my phone, not in the CRM, just through Mojo. Because I was making so many cold calls, I was starting to get a lot of listings. And because I was doing it a lot, volume beats luck, I was starting to generate a good amount of sales. With some of that income, I did step two, which is I started purchasing Zillow leads, advertising. And so when a Zillow lead would come in, I would try and set an appointment the same exact day. And if that buyer said they already had an agent, I would try and give them access to homes that only I knew I had access to, like off markets, as a way to get my foot in the door. Or if they were really tight on a budget, I would say something like, hey, let's get you approved with 3 different lenders and see who gives you the best rate and make them compete so you can get a little bit better price. And because some Zillow leads are, if they were dead set on using their same agent, then I would just say that's no problem. And I would move on to somebody else that wasn't as committed to their agent. Now I have a ton of listing leads coming in. I have a ton of buyer leads coming in. And so I really had to optimize my time. And so every single day I would meet with my assistant and she'd prep my entire call list. She'd schedule showings for buyers. She'd install signs or lock boxes. She'd prep my paperwork. She'd prepare my listing documents. She'd send reminder texts to the clients for my meeting with them. She would drop off pre-listing packages to the sellers. And since she sat right next to me every single day, 5 days a week at least, she already had a good idea of what needed to be done. So if I'm on the phone with a seller and she hears me book the appointment, she grabs the address, she starts working on the paperwork, I can get out the door immediately and never have to think about any of that stuff. And over time, after doing this for a while, she got really good at writing down our systems and making it clear how we do things. For example, here's what one of our expired procedures looked like. She knew if it met this criteria, she would follow these 6 steps. If it met this criteria, she'd follow these 3 steps. This criteria, these 2 steps. And eventually she started to document all of our processes so it was really clear what had to be done. And then every single day, I'll show you what it looks like on here, she would fill out this daily tracker and she would have a new one every single day. It would have the day, first thing she'd do, and she would just start to check box all the things that had to be done in her role every single day. And by having a team member who is really diligent about taking notes and following a system, and me able to talk to clients and sell and focus on this, all I did was 4 things. Check this out. I would lead generate for new leads. I would lead follow up with leads I already had. I would go on appointments with buyers and sellers, and I would negotiate offers and contracts when issues or home inspection problems came up. So my schedule looked like this every day. From 7 to 7:30, I'd meet Rachel. We'd go over the hot sheets, the new listings, all the stuff I had her to do today. She would start prepping my call list. 7:30 to 12, I was on the phone just dialing. Then from 12 to 1, Rachel and I would meet, we would go over anything, and she would write down all of her things or questions she had for me that day. I would answer them all in once, not like pitter patter back and forth. Then from 1 to 3, I had my first appointment block. From 3 to 5, I had my second appointment block. And from 5 to 7, I had my third appointment block. And so I knew I could try and fill those appointment blocks every single day. Then when I'm out and about on appointments, I would keep in my pocket a list of my hottest leads and the newest expireds. And so in between an appointment, I might call these 2 or 3 people. Or if I have a showing in Honolulu, I'll stop by a house that's nearby and say what's up to the owner and see if maybe they want to sell. And so I was really good with my time and I was dialed in. And I was able to follow the schedule every single Monday through Friday. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, I would either do appointments or I would do open houses. And that was my life for a number of years. And then step 4 of this process is on Thursdays, what I would do is instead of doing appointment blocks, I would go down to the yacht club and I would do lunch with different people in my database. And so I would do a lunch appointment from 12 to 1, from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 5 to 6, 7. And the waiters, I told them only bring me half plates. And so they would bring me like half a papaya salad so I could sit down with somebody for an hour, hang out with them, chit chat, we could eat together. I would stand up usually 5 minutes before the hour. I would walk them out. My new person would be coming in. I would greet them and I would have another lunch. And I would have like 5, 6, 7 lunches or dinners in the same day. But the wait staff knew how to treat me and I was a member there, so it was pretty easy. And then step 5 of this process, because every single day I was like 7 a.m. to sometimes 7 or 8 p.m. at the minimum. And so by the time I got home, I was spent. Like I had nothing left in the tank. I was exhausted from talking to people all day long. And that's just what I did. My second help was I had this amazing woman named Karen. She's this little old lady who drove like a 1970 Camaro muscle car. It was very random, but she would come to my house every single day at 5 a.m. She'd wake me up. She'd prep my breakfast, prep my gym bag and all that stuff. I would eat, I'd get out the door to the gym and I would shower out the gym, go straight to work. And then while I was out, she'd do my laundry and clean and all that stuff. And she was super happy. She loved it. But I had no time for anything else. And my roommates, because I was in college or lived with a bunch of college kids, they thought it was weird, but it's fine. It doesn't matter. And by following this system, by having somebody that manages my home life, assistants that take all the duties that aren't related to sales and paperwork and everything else, and then me focusing entirely on money making or selling activities, I was able to do $47 million in sales as some kid, not from Hawaii. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a database, but this took me time to develop. I didn't just start here. And this took me roughly 6 years of work to get to this point. And the first 2 or 3, I made like no money at all. I made nothing. Like I think I sold a total of 4 homes in my first 3 years. So it's like, it wasn't a lot, but it slowly built up. But the most important thing was I focused on things that would move the needle, because I meet a lot of agents, and especially now I see the way they work, and they'll tell me they're working so hard, and I'll look at their calls and I'm like, dude, you made 12 calls. Like, what are you working on? I don't understand. But it took me years to build up that muscle to recognize what I should be focused on, and then being able to discipline myself to sit down and say like, this is what I have to do because nothing else even matters. And to wrap it up, here is a screenshot of the total tax return from that year, where you'll see that I ended up profiting, so netting $379,921 out of the 900,000, because I had spent a lot of money on advertising and sales and staff. And for me, money wasn't the goal. It was, I wanted to be successful. And if I had to redo it, I recognized I wasted a ton of money and a ton of time on all kinds of stuff. But for you, I hope you take this and you're like, okay, this is what a very successful entrepreneur business as a real estate agent looks like. And if you copy just half of it and you want to have a work-life balance, you can do all of this. This career can give you so much if you learn how to push yourself and work on things that matter, and not a bunch of other stuff like checking your email 35 times a day. See you later.